So I've had conversations in the past about the differences between traditional publishing and self-publishing. You ultimately need to make the decision on what you want to do. I look at it a lot times as traditional publishing is like hurry up and write the book and then wait forever for it to get published. Self-publishing is much faster, so you hurry up and write the book, or maybe it takes longer to write the book. I don't know which one. And then you get more of a immediate reward in getting it published. However, it is the long game on income. As we're speaking, if you're doing traditional publishing, a lot of times you'll get like upfront money for publishing books. So the process for traditional publishing is basically you need to find a literary agent. So you want to search something like there's Query Tracker online, and you want to look for an agent who is looking for your type of book. So you're not just sending out these queries willy-nilly to just anybody out there. You are looking for literary agents who are looking at exactly what you have to deliver. Now, this is really hard to do because depending on what they're looking for, it's whatever they believe that the market trends are going to be at that point in time, whatever's popular at that time. I mean, if you watch the market, you look at movies, it's very cyclical, right? You have periods of time where like zombies is the cool thing, and every movie is about zombies or vampires or something like that, and then they disappear for a while and then it comes back. Being able to anticipate what's going to be the next greatest thing is almost impossible. So trying to look and say, hey, vampires are popular right now, I'm going to write this vampire book. By the time you're looking for a literary agent, that train, that ship has probably already sailed. The train's already left the station. The next latest, greatest topic or, it is, what they're looking for in the market. And you've lost your, edge, if you will, over the competitors. The same can be said. So you can, let's say you do a vampire, book and it's not popular right now. Well, you might write 5 years down the road and all of a sudden that's hot and every literary agent wants that, and then you start querying that. But again, like I said, it's hurry up and write the book, write the book, and then you have to wait to get it published. Getting a literary agent is a lot about, being at the right place at the right time. And it's like lightning never strikes twice. So it is kind of a luck of the draw kind of thing if you're in the right place at the right time. It's very hard to get a literary agent. Writers query for years and years before they might get picked up by a literary agent. And sometimes you may never get picked up by a literary agent. But make sure you are researching your agents, and taking the time to send it to agents who are actually potentially interested in what you have to offer. Make sure you craft a query letter that is engaging, that is captivating, and you want to have a query letter that's going to be specific to that agent. Why should they pick up that book? Why should they represent you? What is it about your book that checks all of the boxes on their list of things that they want? That's what you need to put in your query letter. And you can look out there and there's guides on what you should put in a query letter. And you're going to want to tweak it. If it's not getting responses, might go back and change it. And then whenever you do submit pieces of your manuscript, some of them will want like a 1-page synopsis. Some of them will want a 5-page synopsis. Some of them will want it very detailed. Some of them will want it high level. They want the first chapter. They want the first 50 pages. They want the first 5 chapters. Every agent is going to ask for something different. They're going to want it a certain font size. They're going to want it double spaced. Typically no attachments, no email attachments. And it's posted into the body of the email, typically is how it goes. But tips Whatever they're asking for, you provide to a T. If they ask for 50 pages, do not give them 51 pages. Just follow it to a T. If you cannot follow the instructions for submission, I can promise you they're not even going to look at what you have. You're immediately going to the slush pile because they get so many submission requests that anything they can do to weed through them. So if you can't follow instructions, bye. They're using that as a reason to send you to the slush pile. So follow the instructions to a T. And you can wait 6 months and either you'll hear from them or they'll just say, well, if you don't hear from me in 6 months, I passed. So sometimes they won't even dignify you with a response. They'll just ghost you and you'll just never hear from them. And so you're sitting around and wait for 6 months. Then you're applying to more literary agents and you're going to wait around for another 6 months. So you can see how this can turn into years and years. But if you're doing the traditional route, you have to have a literary agent to negotiate with publishing houses about your book. So that is the role of your literary agent. They kind of become your partner. And so they're going to pitch your book to publishers who they think might be interested in publishing that book. And they're going to negotiate the best possible contract for you. And typically they're going to act in your best interest because they're going to get a cut of the pie. So they're going to want to make sure that it's a good deal so that they get part of it too. But whenever you think about the world of professional contracts, would you as an individual be able to read a contract and determine whether or not it was a good deal or not? If you're not familiar with that industry and you're not trained like a literary agent to know what to look for residual rights or movie rights or, anything that has to do with your book and maybe ancillary products that might come from the book. So what if, they want to sell it and turn it into a movie? How much is your piece of the pie for that? I would be able to read the contract, but I don't know whether or not I would know if it was a good deal or not. And so I would still seek a legal professional to review the contract. But you're hoping that the literary agent does their job in your best interest. And beyond that, they just help you build your career and support your career. So they're going to represent you for future works and whatnot if it's deemed that they think that they can sell that. So maybe you have a sequel or something. So they'll work with you on getting that to the publishing house and whatnot. So the publisher's decision, they'll determine whether or not, once your manuscript is submitted, that's another waiting game, is a waiting for them months for the publisher to make decisions. So you wait on that literary agent, you wait on the publisher. It'll go through multiple rounds of editing, which will take forever before it's ready for publication. And by the time you're looking at publishing, once the contract is signed, so that's after you've done everything with your literary agent and they've spent however many months pitching your book to publishing houses before it gets actually signed, you're probably looking at 12 to 24 months before that book is even published. So some of the challenges of traditional publishing are going to be, it's very time consuming. You're going to sit around and wait a lot. And it's going to be, waiting for information that's floating around in the void somewhere. There is a high rate of rejection. So if you are going to query, just kind of steel yourself that you're going to get rejected a lot. I don't care who you are. It's very rare that somebody on their first submission, they get picked up by a literary agent. You're going to hear no a lot. And sometimes you'll get feedback, and feedback is great. Or like sometimes I said, they'll just ghost you and never contact you and say, well, if you don't hear from me in 6 months, I passed. You do lose creative control of your work. A lot of times, when they're editing it, they may want you to change things in your book, and you may feel very strongly as a writer that you don't want to, but you may not have the choice. If you want to publish the book, the editor sometimes will demand that the change be made. And you may be able to argue some things, but the more and more you argue and fight, the longer it takes to publish that book. So those are some things to consider. I've also heard horror stories about traditionally published authors that they don't have any control over the cover. And so the publisher will pick a cover and the writer will absolutely hate it. It doesn't make sense with the story. It doesn't match. They hate it. There's not much you can do about it. You're kind of stuck with it. I do know one author who managed to get it changed. Still didn't like what it changed to, but it was slightly better. So you kind of lose some of that control because they're going to put a cover on there that they think is going to sell. Whether or not it makes sense with what's actually inside of the book may not be the case. And typically you're going to have lower royalties. You have to think your publisher's going to take a cut, your literary agent's going to take a cut, and then you get, the remnants of whatever is left over. So since so many people have their hand in the cookie jar, what you're getting at the end, you're probably looking at a 10 to 15% on your royalties. If you're looking at the self-publishing route, you do get to maintain full creative control. So you get to pick your cover. You get to choose what gets edited. If you decide you don't want to take something out, maybe you hired an editor and they suggested taking something out and you decide that you're not interested and not going to do it, you get to retain that control and get to make that decision on whether that particular scene stays in or if it's taken out. But just keep in mind, your job includes not only the writing, but you are responsible for the editing, the cover design, formatting, and the marketing of that book. And so that's the trade-off. You retain the creative control, but it also means since you're in control of everything, you also get to do everything. There are a lot of platforms that you can publish on. Kindle Direct Publishing is probably one of the most popular. You can do Barnes & Noble Press, Ingram Spark, Apple Books, Kobo Writing Life. I think there's like Books2 Digital. There's a bunch of different options out there that you can do to provide either or maybe both, a physical copy and an ebook copy as well. You just have to do your research on where you want to publish. I do know that if I think your Kindle ebook for Amazon is like 35% royalties on that. And then if you enroll in their Kindle Unlimited, where their subscribers can read your books, they will give you 70% on all your sales, and then they'll pay you depending on how many pages get read of your ebook on I think it's either monthly or quarterly, I can't remember. So again, typically your royalties and pricing are a little bit higher. Marketing and distribution, you can do all the marketing yourself and do social promotions, email newsletters, book signings, and advertising, but you have to do that all yourself. So the challenges of your self-publishing are going to be the upfront costs. So unlike traditional publishing, where the publisher covers the expense of the editor or the artist to create the book cover, and some of the marketing, they don't do as much marketing as what they used to. So you'd be surprised how much they are not doing now as the industry changes. So you have upfront costs that you're responsible for, and you have to consider your time and effort doing all of the extras. There's also a market saturation issue. You got to think, if you can self-publish this and it's easy, then the market is crowded. So there's a lot of people that are self-publishing. So how do you stand out from that? There's also a stigma of the perception of credibility. A lot of people still, look down their noses at self-published authors, although in a later blog I'll cover kind of the changes in the industry. There are a lot of people who self-published that got picked up later by a publishing house. And so I think that stigma is somewhat shifting, and I think it has a lot to do with the quality of the stories that traditional publishers are picking up. And I think readers are really hungry for more. And so I think you're seeing, that indie space increasing in their credibility as long as people don't publish garbage. So please don't publish garbage. Clean it and make it nice. Make it have a good story. So that's kind of my lowdown on the differences between traditional publishing and self-publishing.